All right, dudes, here we go, man. First round of the college football playoffs in the mix. Brent Rollins, remember he does the Rivals. He does the PFF, Pro Football Focus. He's my neighbor. He's my friend. He did not pick this game correctly, though, Brent. You thought Indiana had a chance to win, and you were severely wrong.
Well, I also didn't realize that they would look like the most unprepared JV team, mistake-prone, can't tackle anybody, just garbage of a game. Oh my gosh!
So save the good stuff, Don't be too nice to him. It's
all right. So first off, though, I
Okay.
love more than anything. I love and want to watch good football. I don't really have rooting interest outside of West Virginia a lot of times. This was just so frustrating to watch. So frustrating to watch from knowing that you had weeks to prepare for this, and that was the product. Ugh.
Well, here's the thing. The first 4 minutes was crazy. Like, it was kind of nuts.
Mm-hmm.
You had 2 INTs in the first 4 minutes.
The 98-yard run.
Yeah, and then you come back with the 98-yard run after the interception. Rourke made a big mistake in the red zone, chance to get points, had the guy out wide. He could have probably been a little bit better, but the space was cleared out. He wanted to take that space down the middle. But crazy first 4 minutes of turnover, 98-yard run. And then, quite honestly, Brady, it got kind of boring. I mean, it was kind of a lot of, rock fight. But here's the thing. If I'm looking at Indiana, line of scrimmage, we talked about coming in. Notre Dame really good on the line of scrimmage. They own the line of scrimmage. They won the line of scrimmage. Very good defensively. Twists and stunts up front to get people free. Rourke didn't have a lot of time. And then another thing happened that's a must. When you play this type of an offense from Indiana, an RPO-based offense, the kryptonite for that is playing man covers, Brent, because that takes away a lot of those decisions because you want to read guys.
It takes away the conflict.
It takes away the conflict. Yes, you read that guy and you pull it out if he doesn't play the run. Well, man to man, that guy's got the man. And I thought Notre Dame on the outside, they were really good. They held up on the outside. Indiana couldn't win out wide. I never saw a play, Brent, where anybody was running open free, and it was man to man most of the time. So I think the players were heavily slanted towards one side of the field, and it wasn't Indiana.
No, you're right. And it wasn't. And Notre Dame did what they had to do. And which, by the way, once it got 14-0, I think Marcus Freeman got on the hook with his OC and said, hey, look, dude, the only way we're losing this game is if we screw it up. Let's just kind of milk it and put it in like coast mode in a way. I don't think anything from an offensive standpoint outside of a few run design things actually will apply to Georgia. They'll be much more aggressive next week. It'll be a completely different game because of what they did. But it was quite evident earlier that they're like, all right, we're not going to have any issues here. We can just kind of move on.
Well, in Indiana, they got the tip pass for the interception when they did the thing that you need to do to me when you play Riley Leonard. Keep him in the pocket. You keep him in the pocket. I don't know that the weapons out wide are going to consistently beat you. And the protection honestly doesn't hold up that great either. So
no, it didn't. When they blitzed, they got to him.
Yeah, and I know everybody's going to go, Indiana didn't deserve to be here. Indiana didn't deserve to be here. I know everybody's going to go there right away. Here's one thing to keep in mind in that capacity. Remember, the big teams in the Big Ten didn't all play each other. So we didn't get a true test with all that. Indiana beat the 7th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 16th, and 17th best teams in the Big Ten.
Yep.
I mean, they played the 4th best team in the Big Ten, and they lost by 20+. So, but they didn't play Oregon. They didn't play Penn State. So it was a weird year. Here's what I'm interested to see, Brent, as we move forward too, is how else does the Big Ten do? Like does it show us more with when we see Penn State, and do they struggle? I don't anticipate they will, but to me this was one game. Notre Dame, who I've been high on, Brent, and I'm still gonna be high on. I think they're really good, man. I think they know who they are, Brent. They know who they are. They know what they want to do. man, 4 and 24 good, dude. Like, they are good. Price and
Mhm.
Love, both of those guys could start for just about any team in the country. They run the ball hard. They spell each other. Williams came in number 22 and toted some rock, and Riley Leonard's going to tote it. Like, they're going to stay in games. So I was impressed with Notre Dame and the way they took care of business.
56 Cross being back helped in the middle of the defense.
Yeah.
And guess what Indiana tried to do? Jeff Schwartz, former NFL lineman, great guy that does stuff with the Bear. Great tweet. Running between the tackles has not been fruitful for Indiana tonight. It's not for lack of effort from the play caller, though, because that's like what's amazing. They ran a stretch play and got like 8 or 9 outside zone stretch play, 8 or 9. They ran some split zone action, stayed play side, got some chunk plays. And then it's like, where is it? Are we going to see it again? And you just didn't see it again. And like, there's so much though from the unpreparedness part, like, and the I'm going to go on TV and talk before the game part with Coach Sig and be Mr. Aggressive and talk about how we beat the crap out of teams. And then
I wondered if you'd go there.
Oh, please!
I really wondered if you go there because
he did that. I'm like, crap. Your team is screwed. Honestly,
here's the thing. First of all, your leader has to have swag. Your leader has to believe in you. Like, a lot of times, your leader believes in you before you do. So, Cignetti bringing his guys from JMU. Remember, 13 of them, 30 transfers. Like, he brought a lot of guys in. I think he needed them to buy in. He needed them to believe. He talked a lot, and he was bold, and he talked about his quarterback being from Canada and used to throwing in the cold. Did you see that 66 spot that we put up against Purdue? And I'll be honest, man, I didn't see any of that. I saw a lot of arse whooping, and it was on the other side. And I think when you talk big, it does come back to bite you. You should believe in your team. You absolutely should believe in your team. But I do think when you talk, sometimes you give people ammunition. Like, I can promise you, in every locker room across the country, when somebody says something, it's on a daggum wall. It's on a screen when you walk through the hallway. It's shown. It's talked about. It's a big deal. And Cignetti definitely, he had some brashness to him, some boldness to him, and you want him to believe in his team. But,
well, if he does that and they come out and play well and they win, they play physical and they play buttoned up and prepared, then it's the ultimate mic drop. But when you come out flat on your face like that, you look like an absolute fool. And Saban called him out on game day 40. He's like, I wouldn't talk as much crap as you do. I know that. I was like, wow, that was awesome. But like a couple of different things. Early in the game, when you have you're down 14, you run on third down and then don't go for it on fourth. Notre Dame.
They've been aggressive on fourth down all year long, too. They've done that all year long. I've given them credit. That's one thing we talked about coming in. So that's kind of surprising.
The fake field goal that Notre Dame lines up for, and they're all spazzing, and then they call timeout. You're down. 17. I think it was 17-3 at that point.
Yeah.
Who cares if they fake it? You want them to fake it, and you call timeout, and now you just hand them 3 points. Like, bad dumb penalties. Like, just
that 15-yard penalty on the sideline was really, really bad. Yeah, you know what? The thing about tackling, and here's something to take in mind. Like, when you don't see backs like this guy, like Price, like Love, it makes it exceptionally difficult. Listen, the linebackers from Indiana, they came from JMU. And they're really good players, but there's also a reason they went to JMU, Brent. Like, I'm not meaning that disrespectful. I'm just talking about athletically, and you could tell athletically couldn't get off press coverage at the receiver position, couldn't separate on the other side of the football, couldn't catch up with the speed and make tackles. I thought Notre Dame, you're right, managed the game good. I was surprised too with Cignetti late. Just not why are you punting the football? Like, this is time to go out. Like, we're down 17, 3 possessions, 10 minutes left. Like, there's no other time than now. And
that's white flagging it. You're waving the white flag right at that point in time. That's just that's why it's so frustrating to watch stuff like that. When, like, Herm Edwards, like, play to win the game. Like, come on. I will say, though, in terms of the biggest thing from this game that matters in however many days it is that Notre Dame plays Georgia, 11 days, something like that, is 99. And that little did he actually Mills, the defensive lineman for Notre Dame, did he get his knee truly dinged up?
Sucker.
I mean, he was kind of it's one of those, probably he's just bruised it up a little bit, hit knees, didn't feel good. But if it's an actual injury, that matters. But I didn't think it was. He was kind of moving around a little bit on the sideline, but outside of that, the game has no relevance. But like you said, Notre Dame took care of business. Love had the one big run, and then they didn't have to use him much after that, which is great given that he's kind of dinged up a little bit. So
he's dinged up, but he hasn't carried the ball that many times this season. They've really taken the carries off of him, which I think has been smart. But you could definitely tell still laboring. He came out of the USC game, injured, banged up. Notre Dame's offense, I still don't look at them and think they're an elite offense.
No,
I wonder spinning them forward against Georgia. I think you can punk Indiana and you can out physical Indiana. Georgia's a really tough team to out physical. Like that doesn't happen very often. It usually takes the ability to have some weapons out wide and a running quarterback, which they do. Now he's a different kind of running quarterback than a lot of cats. But I thought before that last 40-yard pass to Faison late, which was late in the game and the game was out of hand, the longest pass play, Brent, was 12 yards. So extremely Notre Dame's offense is extremely, dink and dunk, extremely over the middle oriented, not take shots. So it's going to be interesting to watch them.
And you can tell that Leonard is very much a first read. I'm going to sit on my first read for a count, and then I'm going to where my check down is. It's not like,
and then I'm scrambling and I'm going to dance.
Like, and by the way, the biggest thing also spinning forward is when Indiana brought pressure, they got pressure for the most part. He spun out of it and, was athletic enough to get away from it a few times. But again, though, the design QB run game they didn't need to have it in this game.
No,
it will likely be a massive part of their game plan against Georgia. Like they can take the governor off of Leonard,
and they'll do the Georgia Tech blueprint. I'd imagine. Watch that game a lot. Indiana averages 43 points a game. They're at 3. Complete dud on offense. Complete dud on the line of scrimmage. And I know everybody's going to say they don't deserve to be here. I guarantee the chat's
they were second in the Big Ten.
In it. Yeah, and I know the chat's going to fill up with all the. No, they were 4th in the Big Ten, weren't they?
No, because Ohio State got beat twice.
Yeah, but they beat them. Yeah. And then Penn State was in the championship game. They were. Yep. Yeah, I mean,
they were 1, Indiana 2, or they were 2, Indiana's 3. Sorry,
correct. Indiana was 3, and the team that was at 4 beat them. But it's in the college football playoff, Brent. And I remember doing this year after year after year. There was always teams that got in that got destroyed. It just always happened because the talent discrepancy. And whether you go to 12, whether you're at 4, it's going to happen. And teams are going to get blown out. And matchups, yeah. But teams are going to get blown out regardless. And the talent on Notre Dame's side was a lot better than the talent on Indiana's side. And that's just the facts.
All right, one big positive thing for the night. Playoff home games are awesome.
Liked it.
Like if we were watching this game and it was in some random stadium with, maybe that's not full, I may not have stayed awake. Like it was, but at least, the home crowd, there's energy. It was fun to see all the pregame stuff, obviously with the snow and, seeing that everywhere. Like home playoff games to me. And I think it's one of those where you're going to see the teams that get the bye. If you stay at 12, they need to get a home game too, just because.
Yes, because the next. Well, and you think about like all these people that are transitioning. Like, okay, so if you're a fan of a fan base, like you got to pick and choose your spots of where you want to go. Like, do I want to go to the second round? Do I want to go to the third round? Like, it's really hard to pay for all of these tickets. To pay for a home game, that the prices are expensive. To pay for the next round, like you're making fans kind of choose. I do think the sold out crowd, the fun atmosphere, I think is a big deal, and that's really, really fun. But
well, Indiana did
Notre
score,
Dame,
so it's 27-11 now, and I think they just got the onside kick, so they're now deciding that they actually want to try to compete in the game that they didn't. But that was it was hard to watch, I think so much of it from a coaching perspective, and it's like, hey, you take all this time, you prepare, you do all these things, and then all of a sudden you just kind of shut down when the game gets rolling.
Yeah. I mean, it's also an offense too, though. Like, it's an offense that struggled against Michigan. It's an offense that struggled against Ohio State. If they can't run the football, that RPO game isn't great. And the weapons are exposed a little bit. They're just one of those teams that they have to be rhythmic. They have to be on schedule. They're not afforded the luxury. And when they come out there in the first couple possessions and you get a holding call and you get backed up, I'm like, that gum. You're not even giving yourself a chance to stay on script. I thought Rourke would run the ball maybe a little bit more too, because he's capable of it. Like, he has that in the tool shed. But first round of the playoffs, beat down. We've seen this before. Even in 4 teams, we had beat downs, and it's going to happen. So
all right, so now we know we're getting Notre Dame and Georgia. Like, I think outside of the no governor on Riley Leonard, that part, the other part that's going to be fascinating when you look at the matchup to me is Notre Dame's propensity to pressure and blitz and play man-to-man against Gunnar Stockton making his first start. Do you create turnover? Can he play a turnover-free game? It's going to be tough. He's going to have to make some tight window throws.
Well, and we don't know it, and we ain't seen it. But you'll definitely have to be able to run the football. But here's another thing too, Brent, and I'm just speaking from experience on this. Here's another thing too. When you have a young kid and you make it a kid who has with a lack of experience, when you blitz, Brent, and play man-to-man, it's also more clearly defined for you. Like, when you play zones and complicated zones, like, it makes me have to think. It makes my timing be more precise. I think Georgia has some weapons that they can obviously win with if they can catch the football. I mean, Love can beat some man coverage. Arian Smith can beat you over the top deep. I'm interested to see if Gunnar can throw that deep ball. But there's a lot of unknowns. But there's also the side of it too that if you want to run man to man a lot too, there's nobody spying the quarterback. And when he gets out and you're chasing guys, so I have no clue what we're going to see from Georgia's offense, except I know that they're going to use the running aspect of the quarterback, because they'd be dumb not to. Like,
a little
you
bit.
Have to.
At least a little bit.
You have to. Like, I think you have to. I'm interested to see the juice, to see if that continues, because, Gunnar's the guy. Like, Gunnar's a dude, man. Like, the difference in Gunnar and Beck is stark, okay? There's on the field and off the field. Like, personality-wise and not. Gunnar drives a 1980-something pickup truck with no air conditioning. And I'm not lying, by the way. And we heard all offseason about Beck and his Lambo. Like, they couldn't be more opposite. They couldn't be more. One is like a rah-rah part of the guys. The other one's a little more introverted. So, what does that look like? Does the same juice with ETN carry over to this Notre Dame team? We know Notre Dame's physical. I don't know that you're going to line up and pound Notre Dame, man. I think they're physical enough to meet that challenge. And then I think Gunnar is going to have to make plays. I think it's another low-scoring game when we spin that forward with those two teams. And but a lot of curiosity for sure for the Georgia side on offense.
So do you think Rudy could have got a sack tonight?
I don't know. Sack party.
Yeah. One thing. So you and I were having this conversation earlier today. I went back and listened because we actually have video evidence. We leaned it, but we didn't make an official pick in the Texas Clemson game that's coming up tomorrow. So we were. I have mine written down. Leaning in one way. We just didn't get to it because we had Coach Lanning on. So I was going to see about what your official pick was for the Texas Clemson game.
27-17 Texas is what I wrote down. So I think when I look at this Texas team and I look at their defense, I think they feel comfortable enough to ride their defense. Quinn Ewers has been surprisingly good against good competition. I think he'll be challenged. I think he'll be tested, but I think they have enough diversity in their offense and enough run game to kind of keep you guessing a little bit. I don't think Clemson does. That's another thing too, man. I wrote this down. Like, Maffa's been NIA, man. Like, the best running back on Clemson's roster is Cade Klubnik. Like, and it's not even close. He has been the best guy with the football in his hands doing damage on the ground. That's the problem, man. I know they have weapons, but you're not going to line up with and against this Texas defense, throw the ball over the yard and have a lot of success. They've been the best team against the pass all year long. They have a good pass rush. They have good linebacker play. They have great safety play. They're really good at corner. They've got experience across the board, and they're really, really good. So Clemson, I don't think, can be one-dimensional, and they've been a lot of that lately. And I think that's why their last 3 games, man, I wrote this down too. 3 of the last 4 games decided by 4 points or less. I mean, they've all been close games.
Yep. I wrote Texas 26, Clemson 13. And I do think this is the one game where if somebody gets to 30 points this weekend, it's Texas. If it somehow gets away and Clemson can't do anything offensively. One other thing I wanted to ask you that I forgot to ask.
I didn't put down anybody's scores in the 30s, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't think for any of the games I didn't. I didn't have anybody in the 30s. That is absolutely crazy in today's age in football. I mean, we literally turned the page a couple years ago and we were like, all right, defense is dead. Like, we're done with defense. It's all about offense. It's all about quarterbacks. And now it's completely the other direction. It's crazy.
So speaking of defense, you've got James Pierce for Tennessee going against
a top 15 pick,
going against Donovan Jackson, who was at left guard and is now playing left tackle for Ohio State. When you're a speed guy like Pierce, what's your plan, knowing that, hey, this guy from a length or athleticism standpoint, not normally a tackle? What's your plan of attack in that sense? And
Pierce's game is built on speed. Like, he's not a strong guy that wants to run through you all the time. Like, he's going to beat you with speed. He'll get you with the under as well, and they'll get you with games with that front too with twitch. But the thing about guards is guards aren't used to, when you go against guards, Brent, they're not used to getting depth. They set traditionally on the line of scrimmage, so they don't kick slide, real well. And so when you have to, now listen, he's played pretty well. He hasn't been horrible at all by any stretch. But I think it's just a tough matchup. It's a tough matchup across the board too. Like, on the interior against Tennessee, it's not a good matchup, Brent. Yeah. I don't know where it is a good matchup, by the way, for Ohio State. Where it could be a good matchup is Ohio State, and I've said this a couple of times and they haven't done it. Now, maybe in the playoffs they do this. Like, they've got to use the running quarterback, man. You've got to get the +1 in the run game. You've got to get the Chip Kelly zone read that he's famous for. We're getting the tight end leak like crazy, and we're getting a bunch of Judkins and a bunch of Henderson who are really good players. But, man, I think Will Howard's legs have to be every bit as important, and you got to go, it's a one-game season. I got to win one. Like, I've got to win this one before I get to the next one. And I think they're going to have to take that approach. But I think up front, I can't tell you a matchup that favors Ohio State on that offensive line versus the defensive line.
Yeah, I agree.
I can give them to you elsewhere, though. I can give them to you a wide receiver.
Yeah.
Both sides, Ibuka and Jeremiah Smith. Like, I can give you both of those. G. Scott at tight end, Odell Thurman's son at tight end. Thurman, like 15 when he comes in the game, big body. Like, I can give you matchups where they can win, but how can they win without winning the line of scrimmage? And that's where Chip Kelly's going to have to be masterful. And Brent, as a play caller, and you are a formal play caller, if you can't block them up front, Brent, it kind of takes the ability to do just about anything away. That's why Ohio State's struggling, because it has to start with all of that up front. I can draw great plays up if I get my arse kicked up front, it really doesn't matter. That's the struggle to me for Ohio State.
And the answer a lot of times is what you said a little bit ago is the +1. I'm going QB power. I'm going read game with the QB and putting it in his hands, trying to make somebody wrong, trying to create conflict on the defense. That's usually the answer when, hey,
cracks and tosses, try to pull, try to get to the edge, try to formation them, half rollouts with the leaks and all that stuff. But
and have to take some catch 1-2 throw jump balls. You got to take a few of those chances, and that they haven't really done that, a lot of that. So that's going to be a fun game. It's going to be a fun day of football. So now it's 27-17, by the way, with 25 seconds left. So Indiana getting another respectable loss. I mean, unless they somehow get another onside kick and make it even more interesting.
The Ohio State game was not respectable. That was what, 23?
Oh, that's right. Ohio State scored late. Ohio State scored late, I think, to make it.
Yeah, Ryan Day wanted to make a point of who they are at Ohio State, and then they scored 10 against Michigan. Made a really big point down the stretch. Yeah, they lost by 23 to Ohio State. And so listen, we're getting a lot of people that are continuing to join, Brent, so they didn't hear us, in the beginning.
Yeah.
But it's what did you say about the Indiana outfit and the Indiana coaching staff? And
let's see, totally JV? Unprepared JV, looked like a JV team basically early in the game. That was let's see if they do get the onside kick, because that is, they're down 10, so then never mind.
Doesn't matter.
That was their chance, and they didn't. So now it's officially over.
Yep.
And the play calling part of it, where you have situations, multiple third downs, where you run it on third down and then don't go for it on fourth down. And which, by the way, their punter was terrible also as well. That was another part that just was looking really bad for Indiana.
And that bit him in the Ohio State game. Remember, he dropped a punt, backed up, and and Ohio State had a punt return in that game. So that special teams was a big deal for them. And why are you punting with 10 minutes left and you're down 17?
Yes,
that was the play. Listen,
don't wave the white flag there.
Yes, but I am not going to make a habit of calling. I'm not doing the thing that a lot of people do on certain networks where they crucify coaches. They apologize later. They change their tune. It's embarrassing. I hate it. I can't stand that crap. But you got to play to win, Signetti, and you got to play to put the throttle down. That they needed to be aggressive on a fourth down early. That's who they've been throughout this season. But punting the ball down 17, if they don't punt it, Brent, and they get it and they go score, then they get the onside. We're talking about this might be a different game, and it might be closer at the end. I didn't like that, man. I like the Indiana I saw this year with the throttle down, playing aggressive.
The part that actually, and I agree with that, but I was thinking back to early in the game, the run fits that they had early in the game, like the 98-yard touchdown. One bad fit, one guy gets blocked a little bit.
That was their best player, by the way. That was their best player that got pushed. Michael Kamara got pushed inside
and then
pretty badly by the left tackle.
Angle. Like a safety takes an angle like he's on the goal line, not a.
That's called.
It was more like a. It is, but it was a. It's like it was a goal line play, not a. Hey, I've got all this 90 yards of grass behind me play. It was a 9-man box, by the way. Some of that stuff, the angles and the run fits early in the game, even some edge runs for Notre Dame, struggle bus for Indiana. So it was just struggle bus all the way around until they decided in the last few minutes to do some stuff.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
When it was out of hand, they got some garbage time. But
I'll say we checked the box on PFF garbage time at a certain point.
Yeah,
and I think that box got checked.
Do you think? I said how I felt, but do you think does this mean Indiana shouldn't have been there?
I mean, I think the talent was never like the other teams are more talented, but Alabama still got their arse completely kicked on the road at Oklahoma and got beat by 6-6 Vandy. Even if no matter how you structure it, even if you did say auto bids, like top 4 in the conference, top 3 in the conference, Indiana's still getting in because of the way the conference schedule ended up being. And I think, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago, that's why I think you're going to see these conferences go to an NFL type schedule where it's first place schedule, a second place schedule, and kind of so on down the line to even it out a little bit. But it's now over. Riley Leonard, by the way, and with Leonard, he did what he needed to do early. Outside the tip ball interception, okay, fine. Then you get one right back.
You talking about hand the ball off?
Well, no, checking down the ball. Yeah. Well, he did hand the ball for the 98-yard touchdown. He handed that thing really well. Put it right in the belly. Carried out his fake even. Got a plus on the play.
I tell you what, one of the sneakiest best hires in the offseason was Denbrock from LSU to Notre Dame. Like, we hadn't talked about our boy either, Freeman, who that's 12 ranked wins in 3 seasons at Notre Dame. That's a record. Like, he's done a great job, man. He's a younger guy. He's 38 years old. You remember the locker room speech when he took over from the in-room and they announced him and everybody went crazy and nuts, and they wanted this guy, man. They wanted his approach. He's really cool. Brent, like, you spend time with, you would love this dude. Just linebacker mentality, kind of cool, can kick it, but will absolutely, light a fire underneath you. You've seen him take strides too as a head coach. Dude, everybody's learning as a head coach. You don't step into that seat and all of a sudden go to a superstar. Like, Kirby took his lumps. Nick took his lumps. Everybody takes your lumps, and you learn how to manage games. You learn how to manage kids. Like, that's all part of the process of growth. The fake punts this year, the aggressiveness on 4th down for them this year, lining up at a field goal, thinking about taking a fake field goal. Like, those are things that he has learned. But I think Marcus Freeman has done an unbelievable job recruiting the Irish, recruiting elite talent, developing. Dude, they play with some physicality, Brent. Like, they play with a head coach that's a defensive mindset. That's how they play football. So the Irish has built this because of a great hire.
I would hope he would be good with connecting to kids. He's got like 7. I mean, I don't.
Yeah.
he's got like a whole basketball team and some players on the bench in his family. But also talk about the ranked wins. So now we can put to bed the whole last 30 years 0-10 in those games. They are now there's now no team that has been in a college football BCS or college football playoff that's played more than one game that hasn't at least won one game now, because they were the lone team that had yet to win a game.
That was one of Brent's big stats that he used to pick Indiana because Notre Dame, they're not ready for the big time. I've heard a lot of that lately. I've heard a lot. Honestly, hey, by the way, you ain't the only one. Like, no. You ain't the only one that's doubted Notre Dame and their schedule and the backdrop of Notre Dame and who they were. Like, there's a lot of people that's been sleeping on Notre Dame all year long.
I wouldn't say that I doubted Notre Dame. I actually just thought Indiana would be more aggressive and play that way, and that some of the matchups would be in their favor, and it just didn't work out that way whatsoever, especially the aggressive part.
All right, what's interesting, man? Hold on real quick. What's interesting, I always write down like a bunch of questions of like what decides the football game. Like, can Notre Dame's defense be elite? Like, are they elite? Because we've seen them against the only real elite defenses. We haven't seen them play a bunch of great offenses. Okay, Notre Dame hasn't played that this season. They were really good. Can Notre Dame run the football against a really good run defense? By the way, Indiana's run defense one of the top in the nation. Like, really good at stopping the run all year long. They ran the football. They made the big play early with Love going 98 yards. Check. Can Notre Dame's pass rush that's been really good all year long be really good against Indiana? Check. A lot of loops, a lot of twists, a lot of stunts. So they, in Indiana,
on multiple occasions.
Yeah, in Indiana, they lost their left guard in game 9, I think, and they've struggled since that point too with the depth up front. But they had 7 sacks, in those Ohio State games / Michigan game. Both of those 2 games, 7 sacks, and again tonight, quarterback getting hit. And then Indiana, could they run the football and stay in rhythm, stay on schedule where it's not 3rd and long, guaranteed passing situations? That's a big resounding. Hell no, absolutely couldn't. Could Indiana win out wide at wide receiver? Because Notre Dame's MO was to play a ton of man. I think we know that's not an issue.
Took
And
that L
then
on that one, too.
and my last one was, does it come down to Notre Dame's special teams, their field goal kicker, who's been very, very, very hit or miss this season, and a lot of miss. And he did have one blocked, but
yeah,
it didn't matter in the football game. So
no, it did not. All right, so we get to spin it forward now, though, because we now know a quarterfinal matchup: 7-seeded Notre Dame at Georgia. What's if you're a Georgia fan watching this game, what concerns you? What do you look at with Notre Dame? You're like, okay, can we stop that? Can we match that? Or is it, nah, I'm good. Feel good about
never lost to Notre Dame.
Yeah.
They've never done that, which is kind of crazy. I think the physicality of Notre Dame, like if you watch them, like them knowing who they are, running the football, playing physical defense. If I'm Georgia and I've got wide receivers out wide that have had a ton of drops, that have struggled with consistency, can I throw the football against them? Like, can I win out wide? Because here's the thing. Al Golden is really good, dude. Like, he is good. He is one of the best defensive. He'll play half field coverages and he will have your head swimming, and he knows how to attack with his players. And he's got a bunch of really good players too up front that can win. So I think the physicality of Notre Dame stands out. Them getting a big win stands out. I think those are things that if I'm Georgia, man, I'm really, really glad I had a bye. I'm really glad that I had a chance to get healthy. They got guys going down left and right, and I think all their guys are going to be fine, but it's still another week of physical practice, another physical game. And now you're sitting there rested and ready, another extra week for you to get even more prepared and more fresh. So I think if I'm Georgia, I'm pretty excited that I had that bye week to rest and recover.
Yeah, and that's the way Notre Dame plays man heavily. Like, I think they're the number one team in the country in terms of percentage of cover one, so single highest safety man everywhere else. And the uniqueness of their blitzes, like they find ways to show 7 and it's 4 from one side, come 3 drop, like just all sorts of pressures and simulated pressures. They find a way to get free runners at your quarterback. And if you're playing a guy that is a first-time starter, that's not a good thing for your offense. So can Georgia have answers for Notre Dame's blitz packages? Can they protect Gunner, the backs and tight ends in protection? Can they have quick answers for Gunner, things like that? Those are going to be massive in the game.
No. And the 12 o'clock window is the next question team in this with SMU. And just very curious to see them tomorrow too against another Big Ten team playing with Penn State. But SMU's got a lot of doubters, a lot of haters, especially in the specific state down in the South. Starts with Allen's with Bama. But a lot of people saying, do they deserve to be there? I'm interested to see that too, is, how do they look? Like the strength of schedule teams that people pointed to. Like Indiana's a team that people pointed to their strength of schedule. Now you could also point to their dominance. They were dominant with their strength of schedule. Notre Dame, by the way, was one of those teams. People looked at Notre Dame with the strength of schedule. SMU is next on that list. Like it's the next team that's going to be, do they belong? Should they be here? So watching them against Penn State is going to be really, really fun. We get that at 12 o'clock too, dude. That's just this is amazing.
An all day of college football.
Yeah.
The one difference I think with SMU is you mentioned it earlier, with all of Indiana's transfers coming from JMU, Rourke from Ohio, the guy from Wake Forest.
There's come from Miami.
There's come from Miami. and have played at maybe a higher level along the way, and maybe they're a little bit more ready and for that atmosphere. But you never know.
So keep that in mind. And I want you to finish. But what was the biggest? What was the biggest deal in the end tonight? The line of scrimmage was
way more physical.
Way more physical, owned offensive line, defensive line. Penn State, you should be doing that. That's where
that should be you.
That's where Penn State.
If it's not you,
yeah, you have those higher ranked recruits. You have those guys in the trenches that everybody wanted, and now you got to go out and kick butt in the trenches, because it is. All these games are more lower scoring games, even though I could see SMU and Penn State being a little bit more high scoring. But the weather obviously will be a factor as well, just like it was tonight, nice and cold. But that's an area where Penn State should win. That they got to prove that. They got to run the football, right? They've got two backs that are big time backs. Notre Dame had two backs that were big time backs. They got to be able to run the football and dominate the line of scrimmage.
So just because I figured I'd show you this, Joey wants to say congrats on the state championship, Coach Pollack. So Joey Metcalf, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Appreciate that, North Oconee. We got anything else in the chat that we can answer, big homie?
I don't think so. There's some Bama argument back and forth a little bit there going on, but other than that, no. I do think that you don't lose to Vandy, you can get respect. If you win one of those games, you're in the playoff. Just like Ole Miss, if you beat Kentucky at home, you're in the playoff, or beat Florida on the road. Florida got another win today, so that was the thing.
If you're a Florida fan, like, how are you not excited with what you saw this year? Like, one, you've got your quarterback of the future. Two, and I know people are going to push back on this, I think you got your coach, man, because here. I look at
Vibes
FSU.
Are good. People are coming to him.
I look at FSU, and that's a team that should have been in the playoff a year ago. That's a team that obviously has been good for consistently the last couple of years. They folded like an absolute cheap suit. Like, they were out this thing quickly. Like, it went bad and it went downhill. Florida, it went bad and it came right back. And you got that dude. I think Lagway has a chance to be special. Like, dude's got a hose, man. And the line of scrimmages for Florida were both really, really good. And they had lost portal guys left and right, man, and still were able to put a competitive team together. So, again, I did it all year long, but I'll continue to give Florida a lot of credit, man, the way they rallied, the way they fought. When a lot of big-time teams this year with big-time expectations flopped like fish on a beach, bro.
Did you see big boy Desmond Watson get his carry? Four bills. Get that carry. By the way, past experience, we know that when you give it to lineman, it doesn't usually end well.
Here's the thing about it. I want to give it to linemen, but the problem is, man, you always worry about them getting hurt because they don't know how to protect themselves at all. I think it's really, really fun. I think it's cool, and we did a good job of that when we were coaching, always to keep the morale up. But, God, dog, man, some of them boys – they ain't never ran the football. They don't know how to fall. They shouldn't be touching the rock. That's for dang sure.
The big boy 21, Watson got him a carry. Do you think Tennessee fans take over the shoe tomorrow?
I've seen a lot of that, man. By the way, kudos to the Tennessee fans, like finding creative ways to lie and find tickets. Like, that's fantastic. Whatever it takes, bro. I mean, using the angles use the angles you need to use. But I'll be interested to see that game too. I think that's probably is that the game, Brent, that you have the most question marks about? Like, that you don't know how it's going to go the most? Because it is for me.
Yes. 100%.
Like, that was the hardest one to pick for me. I
agree.
And I think it's going to be low scoring. I think it's two really, really good defenses. I think the weather's going to be nice and chilly. Like, a lot of that. But
and as someone who went to college in Ohio, it's not the cold. The cold is fine. It's when you add a little bit of wind to the cold, that's when it really sucks. That's when it really sucks bad. I will say one of the best things, though, that I heard this week is Coach Dan Lanning talking to us, talking about I'm going to go somewhere by myself and take notes. That's what he said about watching the Ohio State-Tennessee game. I thought that was fascinating. He's like, I don't want to be around people. I just want to be by myself, watch the game, take notes.
Don't talk to me. And listen, I mean, I do that too, Brent. I do that in the living room, and I'm like, what the heck is going on? Like, I'm trying to write down stuff so I can absolutely know what's going on. I need to be locked into this football game. But for everyone that has joined us along the way, Brent Rollins, to start this podcast, talked about how piss poor Indiana is. They didn't deserve to be there. There's JV teams that are better than them. Signetti talked really big, but he is absolutely overrated. Shouldn't have been the coach of the year. Rourke's terrible. Did I miss anything else, Brent, of what you said to start the podcast?
I don't think any of that was there. I will say this: I was very disappointed in the effort. I want to watch good football, and that was not good football. It was not prepared, not dialed in football. That's for darn sure.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things if I'm an Indiana fan that I'm upset with, and I think early in the game, man, that was a big one. That pick Rourke threw early in the game. They had a chance to see some momentum. Then they give up the 98-yard touchdown. He throws an interception on the 2. That really turned the game. And then physicality, toughness. Listen, we'll see tomorrow, man. Like, SMU is going to be criticized. The Big Ten now looked at like, is it because of the strength of schedule? The Big Ten, the middle to the bottom of the Big Ten was horrible this year. Like, that's a fact. I mean, that's not even a debatable fact to me. But tomorrow, Brent, lock in, dial in. We'll be back here tomorrow night to talk about all the different games, everything that happened. And hopefully Brent doesn't call someone another JV squad and attack the national coach of the year. I mean, that's just unbelievable. Only Brent Rollins could do that.
Brent, Indiana hater confirmed.
Indiana hater confirmed. Let's see tomorrow who he'll hate.
I did pick him in the beginning, but whatever.
That didn't work out real well. Hey, appreciate y'all all year long staying with us, and we'll see you guys tomorrow night.